Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. I hope you guys are having a good morning or had a good morning and are having a good day. We are going to go over activity 86 today, and we're going to go over the questions for, I believe it's activity 82 we haven't covered. If you have any questions, please feel free to drop some questions. Please pay attention to the questions I'm asking so we can try to get some answers done quickly. And, oh yeah, I never comment though. I try not to. But let's go over these answers really quick. And we're looking at, I believe it's activity 82 I haven't gone over yet. And I know I have to assign the question for activity 83. I'm sorry, activity 84. I'll do that today. Okay. That will go over activity 84 and 86 on Monday. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we did do activity 82, so it's 83 we're supposed to be going over. But since I just assigned those, we'll go ahead and hold off. All right, so all we're going to do today is do 86 lab. So 86 lab is investigating the center of mass. Okay. Investigating the center of mass. This is actually one of the labs that I really like because it goes over some things that I like the way it presents it. So here we have, well, I don't have a meter stick on me, but I do have a ruler. Now, unfortunately, it is weighted a little bit, okay, because there's something underneath it. This is a drawing ruler. So if I place the ruler on my finger, I can actually balance it, and I have to find the right spot again, since it's got one tip of it that's not weighted, is slightly off center, but for the most part, it's on the center. And you can see that I can balance it on my finger. Okay. Now, if I were to take these Post-it notes, clearly you would see it would fall. But if I put the Post-it notes here on one end, okay, I can now adjust on my finger to balance it. But if you notice, the edge being here and here, I'm no longer in the center. So the center of gravity is not the same when something is added on one side. So what does that have to do with the class that we're doing? Well, we have a lab today that I set up. And what we're going to do is we're going to look at how center of gravity impacts cars. Okay? So the center of gravity, the way it impacts vehicles, it shows us how vehicles are affected by, you know, their height, their size. And I think we talked about this in class a little bit when we were in class. I believe we spoke about, or at least in a few classes, how a vehicle's height, for example, a Jeep, would actually cause it to be unstable, and as a result, it could flip over. So I am going to turn the camera around so you can see the lab. You can see the data table behind me. So we're going to be measuring three things. Okay. We're going to be measuring an empty cart, a cart with a low loaded mass, and a cart with a high loaded mass. And the data that we're going to take is just going to be observational. It's not going to be actually numerical. It's just going to be observational data. Okay? So, congratulations. Okay, so let me turn the camera. I had to block my front door. I apologize. The lighting creates a little bit of an issue, and some of you can actually see your books there. We'll be setting up a time that we can get books back. Now, the setup is really short, as you can see. Okay? The setup that you're looking at right now is just, and I want you to get the bottom of the track more so than the top, because I want you to see what happens. Okay? All right. So we're going to use this cart, and what I have in the cart, just so you can see, are 2 plastic tubes like this and 1 metallic tube. Okay? So we're first going to look at the cart, and we'll do a couple of trials for each just to make sure the behavior is consistent. Okay? And I'm going to start, it doesn't matter what part of the track I start from, but I want to be consistent. So, you know, I want to start from the top. So starting from the top, okay, and I'll do it a couple more times just to see if our results are consistent. Can anyone tell me what they noticed? Who do you see? I mean, I know it's not remarkable. But what do you see? What happened to the cart? The cart bounces back a little, but does it really do anything else? So in a car crash, the cart, if the cart was a car, it would hit whatever barrier it hit, and then it would, I guess, you know, bounce as a result, and it would stop. All right, I'm going to turn it the other way just to see what happens the other way. We're going to send it from the same height. Okay. Pretty much does the same thing, right? Okay, it bounced a little. Now, we're going to load it, and we're going to put the center of gravity low. What that means is the majority of the mass is further down. So I'll start it with the way it was facing before. Okay. And just let me know what your observations are. Now, it bounced a lot. Yes, it did. I'm going to start it this way. Oh, sorry, hold on. My track fell apart. We're using what's called a barrier track. Uh-oh, sorry, my track fell apart again. Okay, so it's got a little bit more recoil. Okay, now we're going to use a low center of gravity. So we put a plastic on the bottom and the metal on the top. Okay? Anyone? Yeah, it did almost fall off the track that time. Anyone guess what's going to happen now? You think it's going to fall off the track? Okay. All right. We're going to start it first this way, like I had it before. Oh, wait. Nope. Okay. Let's put it back together again. Okay, this time it didn't go flying. Okay, now, although it did not fall off the track, its tires actually bounced up so that it's leaning to one side. I don't know if you could see that. The bottom of the tire is actually right here on the outside of the track. Okay, let's look at it the other way. Oh, jeez. Okay, so that time it tipped over, so it flipped. All right, let's look at that again because we need consistency. It flipped again. And one more time. Okay, that time it survived, but it did break the track. Okay, let's try that again. Okay, so you will notice that when the center of mass is on top, it flips a lot easier. Okay? All right, so what we're going to do now is I'm going to bring the camera back up so that we can actually go over some of the work. Oh, a little too high. We don't want to stare at the ceiling. All right. And now I have to adjust the camera to make sure it's nice and straight. Okay. All right. So let's take a look at our data. So the empty cart observations that I saw that you wrote, okay, it bounced a little. Now, for the empty cart, while I write this, was it stable or unstable? Okay. So for the empty cart, okay, bounced. Okay, a little bit. Recoil. Okay, would you consider the empty cart stable? Yes, the empty cart is stable. Okay, for the loaded cart with the low center of gravity, we noticed that it had a large bounce. So big bounce. And, okay, did the tires jump up at all? And is it stable or unstable? I'm not seeing anything on the chat, so I'm not sure if people are responding or not. I'm just not seeing it. Okay. Kind of stable, more stable than the third one, right? Okay, so we can still put yes. Okay, it didn't come off the track. So I had a big bounce and recoil. But the third one, okay, stable or unstable. And we noticed that it flipped. Okay. So flipped and off track. So either it flipped completely, it went off the track, or it was unstable. Correct. So it flipped, it went off the track, or it flipped on the track, it stayed on it, but it was no longer on its wheels, so on and so forth. So the reason this is important is because when you're driving a vehicle with a high center of mass, okay, a Jeep, for example, for the life of me, I cannot remember the name of the cars. It was a brand that existed many years ago, okay, a brand that existed. I was probably still a teenager. So you're talking about maybe, I don't know, 25, 30 years ago. And I remember distinctly that these Jeeps were ice cream colored almost. They were a little bit on the fluorescent pastel side. The colors were a little bit on the obnoxious side. One of the issues with them is that they had a tendency of flipping over a lot, okay, because their center of gravity was so high. So I don't know how many of you have ever been in a car like on the Skyway Bridge or the Howard Franklin, and when the wind is hitting, you can actually feel your car buffeting really, really hard. Okay, the Monopoly car. I don't remember what that looks like. So that's because if you have a really high center of gravity, depending on how strong the wind is, it could actually impact your car flipping over. Now, a regular car or sedan tends to have a very low center of gravity, but if you're driving like a Jeep or an SUV, especially if it's one of the taller SUVs, their center of gravity is higher because, let's face it, the closer you are to the ground, the lower your center of gravity. If you have a car with high tires, okay, if you have a taller vehicle, the center of gravity shifts up and it becomes unstable, like our little cart friend here that flips over when the center of gravity is high. Okay, does that make sense? I thought that was a fairly easy analogy. Now, that's actually all of it. Okay, that was the entire activity. Quick and easy, simple, but I think it got its point across. So I will post the questions for both 84 and 86. I'm not saying they're both due tomorrow. They're not. I'll go over 83 tomorrow, and I'll go over 84 and 86 on Monday. Monday evening, I will post the test, and it'll either, I may be nice and extend it to Sunday, but Monday evening, I will post the test. And that test will be due at some point at the end of the week. And you'll see it when I finally post it. But I do want to give you an opportunity to review. So I'll go over the material with you in class. I'll do some review tomorrow. I'll do some review on Monday. Okay, let me go over retakes again. You do not have to retake the test if you're happy with your score. Okay. I look at both scores, and whichever one is the better score, I get rid of the other one. Okay, so if you do poorly, and that's why I suggest you take your test the first time, because if you do poorly on the first test, you have the opportunity to go in and do the retake. If you just go in and do the retake, well, it's a one and done. Okay, I can't leave tests open indefinitely. So if you're happy with your score, you do not have to do a retake. So just leave that column blank. Okay, if there's nothing in the column, I don't have to count it. And I suggest you go and do all of your assignments prior to taking the test. Now, there is one thing, and I posted this on Edsby. Well, I sent a message to parents. Folks, I put zeros in for assignments that were due 2 weeks ago or 2.5 weeks ago at this point. Listen, just because there's a zero on the assignment doesn't mean you can't turn it in. The whole point is to get your attention on what's going to happen if you don't turn in your assignments. Please go back if there's a zero in an assignment and physically turn in the assignment. Get it in the system. Once I see that there's an assignment turn in, I'll grade it, and the grade will change automatically as I grade each individual question. Okay, so please go in and do it. Because I see people turning in all the new stuff and none of the old stuff is turned in. Okay, and I suggest if you have missing assignments, you do them all before the test so that you can get help with the test. Because I have people who did the test, didn't do the assignments, and then didn't do well on the test. So, hello. So does anyone have any questions, comments, difficulties, concerns? Is there anything you want me to go over? If you have a concept you need me to go over, please let me know. All the concepts that were on the last test are still on it. There are a few new things that are there that I'm going to be going over with you starting tomorrow. But for the most part, I mean, you're still doing forces. Okay, now you're looking at forces a different way. So there'll be a few things that I'll be doing. with the class just to explain some concepts that I want to make sure you fully understand before I make the test live. Okay, because I know that there are going to be some people who are going to be gung-ho. They're going to go in and take the test before I have the opportunity. And I would feel bad if you missed questions because you know, were being very proactive. So, any other questions, comments, difficulties, concerns, anything you want me to go over, anything you don't understand how to do? Okay. So I went over the activity, I went over homework, I went over the test. Starting tomorrow, we will review. And from there, we're going to start preparing for the last unit, Unit F. Okay, and that unit is waves. So if you have any questions, let me know. I think waves will be pretty cool as well. I think, you know, these last 2 units are the most enjoyable ones that we'll get to experience. Unfortunately, we can't do it in class, and some of the labs are kind of fun. So I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. I'll stay on for a few moments until, you know, to answer any questions, but I will end the stream. So feel free to ask something in the chat if you need it. If not, have a wonderful day, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.